Have you ever forgotten a birthday? Or perhaps an anniversary? We've all experienced that moment of panic when we realize we've overlooked something important. But what if I told you there's something far more significant that we tend to forget every single day? In Jerusalem, around 1000 BCE, King David faced this very human tendency. As he sat beneath the stars one night, reflecting on his journey from shepherd boy to king, he recognized how easily he forgot the countless blessings God had showered upon him. The wars he'd survived, the kingdom he'd built, the mercy he'd received despite his failures, all of these became distant memories when new troubles arose. That night, penning what we now know as Psalm 103, David didn't just write poetry. He created a prescription against spiritual amnesia. He began with these powerful words, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." Did you catch that? Forget not. David wasn't addressing God. He was speaking to himself, commanding his own soul to remember. But remember what exactly? That's what we'll explore today as we journey through one of the Bible's most beloved Psalms, a masterpiece that has comforted kings and commoners alike for nearly 3,000 years. Psalm 103 stands as one of the most personally intimate songs in the Psalter. While many other psalms address national concerns or community worship, this one emerges from the depths of personal experience. Biblical scholars generally attribute it to King David, though the psalm itself doesn't explicitly name its author in some translations. When we examine the historical context, we find ourselves in ancient Israel during what historians call the United Monarchy period, approximately 1010 to 970 BCE. David had experienced the full spectrum of human emotion, from the heights of military victory to the depths of personal failure, from being hunted as a fugitive to sitting on the throne of Israel. His relationship with God was equally dynamic, filled with moments of incredible intimacy and painful separation. The psalm appears to have been written during David's later years, a time of reflection when he could look back on God's faithfulness throughout his tumultuous life. Archaeological findings from this period reveal a nation at its peak, with Jerusalem established as both political and religious center. The Ark of the Covenant had been brought to the city, and plans for the temple were underway. It was a time of national prosperity, but also one where personal piety remained paramount. Let's walk through this remarkable psalm together, verse by verse, and discover why it has endured as a testament to divine compassion for millennia. The psalm begins with self-exhortation. "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." Notice the repetition, a literary device common in Hebrew poetry that emphasizes importance. David isn't just casually remembering God. He's commanding his entire being to engage in blessing the divine. The Hebrew word for bless here is barak, which carries connotations of kneeling, acknowledging superiority, and offering adoration. It's an act of complete submission and gratitude. What follows in verses 3 to 5 is a remarkable list of God's benefits, the reasons why David's soul should remember to bless God, who forgives all your iniquity, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with steadfast love and mercy, who satisfies you with good so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. Did you know that eagles undergo a remarkable renewal process? Ancient observers noted how eagles appeared to gain new strength after molting seasons, soaring with what seemed like renewed youth. Science now confirms that eagles can live up to 30 years in the wild, regularly renewing their feathers and maintaining their strength well into old age. This natural phenomenon perfectly illustrates the spiritual renewal David describes, not a one-time event, but a continual process of restoration. Each benefit David lists addresses a fundamental human need. forgiveness for our moral failures, healing for our brokenness, redemption from death and destruction, love and mercy that dignify us beyond our deserving, good things that satisfy our deepest longings. These aren't abstract theological concepts, but deeply personal experiences that David had witnessed firsthand. Consider the historical reality of David's life. He had experienced God's forgiveness after his grievous sins with Bathsheba and against Uriah. He had been healed from potentially fatal illnesses, as hinted at in other psalms. He had been redeemed from the pit of despair and danger numerous times, whether hiding in caves from Saul or fleeing from his own son Absalom. He had been crowned not just with a physical diadem, but with divine loving kindness. And despite the hardships of his later years, he continued to experience renewal and satisfaction. In verses 6 to 7, David broadens his perspective from personal to historical. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the people of Israel. The reference to Moses takes us back approximately 400 years before David's time, to the formative period of Israel's national identity around 1446 BCE according to traditional chronology. The exodus from Egypt and the giving of the law at Mount Sinai weren't distant legends to David, but foundational historical events that shaped his understanding of God's character. When David mentions God's ways being made known to Moses, he's referring to Exodus 33 to 34, where Moses boldly asked to see God's glory. God responded by proclaiming his name and character. The Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. This self-revelation of God forms the basis for verses 8 to 10. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. He will not always chide, nor will he keep his anger forever. He does not deal with us according to our sins, nor repay us according to our iniquities. The Hebrew words used here are profoundly significant. Merciful, rakem, comes from the same root as womb, suggesting the deep, instinctive compassion a mother has for her child. Gracious, chanun, indicates stooping down in kindness to one who cannot earn or deserve it. Steadfast love, chesed, represents faithful, covenant-keeping love that persists regardless of the recipient's worthiness. Anthropologists studying ancient Near Eastern cultures note how radically different this portrayal of deity was from surrounding nations' concepts of gods. While neighboring peoples often depicted deities as capricious, demanding, and easily angered, Israel's God was presented as consistently compassionate, though still absolutely holy. Verses 11 to 12 use powerful spatial metaphors to describe the magnitude of God's love and forgiveness. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his steadfast love toward those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far does he remove our transgressions from us. In David's pre-scientific worldview, the distance between heaven and earth represented the most extreme vertical measurement imaginable. Similarly, east and west marked an unbridgeable horizontal span. You can travel east forever and never start going west. Modern astronomy gives these metaphors even more profound meaning. We now know the universe extends billions of light years in all directions, with the observable universe spanning approximately 93 billion light years. If God's love extends as high as the heavens above the earth, it is truly immeasurable. But what does David mean by those who fear him? The Hebrew concept of fear, yair, in this context doesn't primarily denote terror, but rather reverent awe and respect. It's the appropriate response to encountering something vastly greater than yourself. Archaeological discoveries throughout the ancient Near East confirm that this concept of reverent fear toward deity was widely understood across cultures, though the moral implications varied significantly. In verses 13 to 14, David shifts to a tender parental metaphor. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. For he knows our frame. He remembers that we are dust. The patriarchal family structure of ancient Israel placed fathers as both authority figures and primary providers. A good father in this context wasn't just strict but deeply compassionate, intimately aware of his children's limitations and needs. David portrays God as the perfect father, one who doesn't expect more than we can give because he thoroughly understands our finite, fragile nature. The reference to dust recalls Genesis 2 verse 7, where God forms the first human from the dust of the ground. This isn't merely poetic language, but an acknowledgement of human origin and destiny. Archaeological excavations throughout the Middle East have uncovered countless human remains returned to dust, a sobering reminder of our mortality, something the ancient world confronted far more directly than our modern death-denying culture. This theme of human frailty continues in verses 15 to 16. As for man, his days are like grass. He flourishes like a flower of the field. For the wind passes over it, and it is gone, and its place knows it no more. The Mediterranean climate of ancient Israel featured brief, spectacular wildflower blooms after winter rains, followed by their quick disappearance in the heat of summer. Botanical studies of the region identify numerous ephemeral flowers that might have inspired this metaphor: anemones, cyclamen, and various bulbous plants that burst into colorful life briefly before withering. Historical demography confirms the brevity of human life in David's era. The average lifespan in ancient Israel ranged from 30 to 40 years, with many dying much younger due to disease, warfare, or childbirth complications. Even King David, who lived to about 70 years, recognized the fleeting nature of human existence against the backdrop of history and eternity. Yet verses 17 to 18 provide striking contrast. But the steadfast love of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to those who keep his covenant and remember to do his commandments. While humans are temporary, God's love, chesed, is eternal. While our influence may quickly fade, God's righteousness can impact generations. Archaeological discoveries demonstrate how quickly civilizations can disappear. Great cities buried under sand and soil, mighty empires forgotten until rediscovered by modern excavations. Yet here we are, 3,000 years later, still engaging with David's words, still contemplating the same divine love he experienced. The covenant mentioned here refers to the specific agreements God made with Israel, beginning with Abraham around 2000 BCE and formalized through Moses approximately 1446 BCE. These weren't simply religious rituals but comprehensive frameworks for relationship with God and others, covering everything from worship practices to economic justice. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, contain some of our oldest extant copies of biblical texts, confirming the remarkable consistency of these covenant traditions over millennia. In verses 19 to 22, David expands his vision beyond earth to heaven itself. The Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom rules over all. Bless the Lord, O you his angels, you mighty ones who do his word, obeying the voice of his word. Bless the Lord, all his hosts, his ministers, who do his will. Bless the Lord, all his works, in all places of his dominion. Bless the Lord, O my soul. The psalm concludes with a cosmic call to worship. From the individual soul to celestial beings, from earthly creatures to heavenly armies, everything in creation is invited to join the chorus of blessing. The Hebrew concept of blessing God, Barak, doesn't imply that humans or angels add anything to God's perfection, but rather that they acknowledge, celebrate, and proclaim it. Ancient Hebrew cosmology envisioned heaven as God's throne room, with angels serving as his court and messengers. While this may seem like primitive mythology to some modern readers, contemporary physicists and philosophers increasingly recognize the limitations of materialist worldviews. The concept of multiple dimensions beyond the four we experience directly, three spatial dimensions plus time, has become mainstream in theoretical physics, suggesting the possibility of realities beyond our perception, not unlike what ancient religious texts described through different language. As we conclude our journey through Psalm 103, let's return to David's opening exhortation. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. This psalm operates as spiritual memory therapy. In the ancient world, memory wasn't just passive recollection but active engagement with truth that shaped present behavior. Neuroscience now confirms what David intuited. Regularly recalling positive experiences and practicing gratitude physically reshapes neural pathways, improving mental health and emotional resilience. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies found that gratitude practices significantly improved psychological well-being among participants, with effects lasting long after the intervention period. But Psalm 103 isn't merely about improving mental health. It's about accurately perceiving reality. If God truly is, as David describes, compassionate, forgiving, healing, redeeming, and eternally loving, then forgetting these truths means living disconnected from reality. It means responding to life's challenges without accessing our greatest resource. It means carrying burdens of guilt, shame, and fear that have already been addressed. Biblical scholars note interesting parallels between Psalm 103 and ancient Near Eastern hymns to deities. However, while many such hymns focus primarily on a god's power or demanded specific offerings, this psalm centers on divine compassion and requires nothing but remembrance and gratitude. The revolutionary nature of this approach can't be overstated in its historical context, where religious practice often involved elaborate rituals designed to appease potentially angry gods. Archaeologists have uncovered numerous ancient temples with sacrificial altars, ritual bathing facilities, and spaces for offerings. Yet Psalm 103 suggests that the offering most pleasing to God is simply a grateful heart that remembers his goodness. This insight anticipated the prophetic critique of empty ritualism and foreshadowed the spiritual worship described in the New Testament. 3,000 years have passed since David penned these words. Empires have risen and fallen. Scientific revolutions have transformed our understanding of the physical universe. Technological advances have radically altered human society. Yet the fundamental human needs addressed in this psalm remain unchanged. We still need forgiveness for our failures. We still need healing for our brokenness. We still need redemption from the pits we fall into. We still need love that dignifies and mercy that restores. We still need renewal when life depletes us. And according to this ancient king who experienced the full range of human triumph and tragedy, these needs find their answer in a God whose compassion exceeds the height of the heavens, whose forgiveness extends as far as east from west, and whose love endures from everlasting to everlasting. Perhaps today, like David, we need to speak to our own souls. Perhaps we need to command ourselves to remember what we're prone to forget. Perhaps in the midst of our busy, distracted lives, we need to pause and simply say, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." In a world that bombards us with reasons for anxiety, anger, and despair, Psalm 103 offers a radical alternative, a perspective that acknowledges human frailty without being defined by it, that recognizes life's brevity without losing hope, that confesses moral failure without surrendering to shame. It invites us to ground our identity not in our achievements or mistakes, but in God's unchanging character. Whether you've studied this psalm for decades or encountered it for the first time today, its invitation remains the same. Remember who God is. Remember what he's done. Remember the benefits that are yours not because you've earned them, but because he's given them. And in remembering, find yourself empowered to bless His name with everything within you. Before you go, I want to personally invite you to be part of our growing community here at Prayer Universe. If this video touched your heart or brought you peace, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a prayer or message that can uplift your spirit. But most importantly, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share just one word or phrase of motivation that this video inspired in you. Whether it's hope, gratitude, peace, or something else. Your words matter deeply to us because they help guide the content we create for this channel. Together, let's build a space filled with faith, encouragement, and connection. Thank you for being here, and remember, every prayer counts. See you in the next one.